Yeah, this is it, y'all. This is how it's gonna go, and it's not gonna stop. When it rains, it pours. A little worried that the Bulls gonna find a way to lose this one, and they somehow did. It's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Unreal, man. It is just unreal right now in Chicago. The Bulls are falling apart before our very eyes. What was it four games in a row, 5 games in a row now lost? Should have won this one easily. Came back. You were down by 19. You came back. You should have won it after you came back, and you didn't win it due to missed free throws. Yeah. Welcome to the life of being a Bulls fan, where nothing is going to go right for the next probably couple of weeks. Flat out unreal. All right. I hope the stream is doing all right. Obviously, I'm not at my usual spot, so right now it says I have excellent connection. So just let me know if the stream isn't doing well, if you can't hear me or anything, or if there's too much background noise. But I think so far we're looking pretty good in terms of stream quality. So I hope it's going well. If you're coming in, come and vent. This is a safe place to vent. I know a bunch of people are pissed right now. I'm really pissed. This is just unreal, man. It is flat out unreal. The Bulls will find a way to lose, no matter what happens. They're just gonna find a way to lose. And I honestly, I mean, unless something changes, man, I see this Bulls team losing the next 4 games. Because of just the way that they're playing and how things are going at this rate. All right, Jalen Suggs, he saved the day for Orlando Magic. Hit a game-winning three over Ayo Dosunmu after 2 missed free throws by Nikola Vucevic that would have put the Bulls up by 4. And then if he makes 1, he put the Bulls up by 3. So then at least it's overtime. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't really care about these Vucevic missed free throws. I care about the Bulls being down by 19 against the Orlando Magic for all teams. This is just flat out inexcusable if you're the Chicago Bulls being down by 19 against an Orlando Magic team that doesn't have Paul Banchero and other guys are missing as well, and you're down by 19 somehow. Like, I don't know why this is becoming such an issue, but the Bulls are continuously just going to get down by double digits every single game, and it seems like some games they're able to come back, and some games they're just not going to be able to come back. And this one, they're able to come back. We've seen this a lot of times, but that's the reason why you lost this game. It's not because Vucevic missed the free throws. You lost this game because you decided not to come out ready to play and actually perform up to par. Unreal. Every single game that, like, since this practice that the Bulls apparently had on 3 days off, it's been, you're not coming ready to play at the start of the game. So I do have to blame some of this on Donovan. I have to blame a lot of this on the big three. And it's straight up just looks like the Bulls right now, they're flat out just cursed with how things are going for this team. I also want to say Zach LaVine had one of the worst games I've ever seen from him. And as a Zach LaVine supporter, this was horrible to watch him absolutely not perform today. Inexcusable by Zach. I don't know what's up with him. He seemed to get some good open shots. It obviously just didn't go down. And then when he was trying to create for others, it just seems like no one was on the same page with him. So just inexcusable by him. I'm glad that Donovan benched him at the end of the game. And he needs to come out ready to play next game because he just got benched against a team that should not be winning against the Bulls. So that's kind of the huge storyline right now is that Zach LaVine got benched in crunch time, which he should have, 100% should have. I have faith that Zach's gonna be fine because I've seen this happen to many stars before, but in this sort of game, I think it's just straight up inexcusable for him to have this sort of game. Like, I've seen stars have this sort of game against good teams with good defenses. Against the Orlando Magic, it's just straight up inexcusable from Zach. So this was just awful from him. So he needs to come out ready to play. I don't even know who the Bulls face next, honestly. I honestly do not care. Nikola can't make free throws. Yeah. Well, honestly, Magugla, if I'm saying that correctly, I know Vucevic missed those free throws, but to me, that's not the biggest thing for me. To me, it's that, hey, you were down by 19 to the Orlando Magic. 19. Why are we down 19 to the Orlando Magic? You should not be down by 19 to the Orlando Magic. I don't know why the Bulls are down 19 to the Orlando Magic. They did not come out ready to play. They were basically trading buckets in the first quarter, and then the Magic went on a run. You lost the second quarter, and then you finally start to play defense in the third and fourth quarters. But it's too late. Like, yes, Vucevic missed the free throws. It sucks that he missed it. But you cannot be down by 19 to Orlando Magic. That's what lost the game. You're down by 19. Inexcusable. So it just bothers me that we're seeing a consistent trend where the Bulls are just down by double digits every single game, no matter what game it is. And sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. And we're seeing a lot of times the Bulls actually do come back, but you're not going to win these games consistently if you're always down by double digits every single game. And then, we see games like the Pelicans and the Nuggets, once you get down by double digits, they fall apart. So I'm just at this point where I'm like, look, man, something has to change. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a coaching change. Because clearly, like, at this point, like, I'm at this point now because the slow starts have been such a consistent trend where I'm starting to blame more of it on Donovan because he has to do something. Like, he hasn't done any sort of change to the starting lineup. And even before when Levine wasn't playing all the time, like, it was consistent that the starting lineup, no matter who was in it, was having issues. So to me, it's like, okay, the only consistent thing is DeRozan, Vucevic, and Donovan. So it's something out of those three are the problem when it comes to these slow starts, because it doesn't matter who's starting. We've seen many different starting lineups, and they all get up to slow starts. This game, it's another slow start. You're trading buckets with the Orlando Magic. You're down most of the time in the first quarter, and then the second unit comes in, and they get absolutely wrecked, which is something that we're not used to. But you can't be relying on the second unit consistently, which the Bulls have been doing all season for some reason. It's worse because we have the Bucks and Celtics next week. Yeah, we're getting wrecked in those in those games. Magugla. It's just flat out unreal at this point. I apologize if I'm looking all the way over here. My second monitor's this way. But yeah, the Bulls are losing. I think for the next 2 weeks because there's clearly something wrong right now. I mean, we're not in the locker room, right? But there's clearly an issue. And I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know what it is, but you could. I'm always blaming the big three because at the end of the day, these are your three all-stars that should set the tempo, and set the tone for the team. And I mean, yeah, you can blame it on whoever. Did Billy bench Zach? What happened? Yeah, Zach got benched. Zach LaVine got benched at, I believe, around 3:30 left. He had one of the worst games I've ever seen, and he is 100% responsible, or I shouldn't say 100%, but he is partly responsible for this horrible performance by the Bulls. Down by 19 to Orlando Magic, that's partly on him. I thought Zach got good shots. He just didn't make them tonight. I will say what I do appreciate what Zach did tonight was that he kind of got the memo, like, okay, slow starts, let me try to get going early, because you're seeing actually what Zach's been doing this season has been, he doesn't look to score early, he scores later, which has been kind of like what a lot of Bulls fans have been calling for. But this game, he shot like 4 straight shots like out of the gate, all missed, and he just never recovered. He missed a couple of bunnies that were right there for him. He probably got fouled on a couple of drives, but when you're not making shots, you're not getting the call. So just a straight up horrible game by Zach LaVine. I have faith he's gonna be fine, but just unreal what we saw from Zach tonight. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan, he had a 40-point game. I believe it was 41 points, and he was basically the offense down the stretch. And it honestly makes me start to think that, like, the Bulls have changed their system. I actually made a video, and I actually made a video about this Bulls' new offensive system, which I'm going to pull this up by Rob Schaefer, because this Bulls offensive system has actually, like, not gone well. I made a video in the preseason showing, like, the Bulls' new 5-out offense, but it actually seems right now that the Bulls' new offense has actually hurt them, and it is just unreal what we're seeing right now. But basically, what I want to talk about is this. we saw in this game when the offense actually looked good was when DeMar DeRozan decided to isolate. Okay? How many times have we been saying in like over the past, like last year and then the start of this year, like we can't be relying on isolation offense because that we're not going to win that way. But right now, that isolation offense by the Bulls is actually better than their 5-out offensive system that they're putting out there right now. So like this new offensive system, I understand there's going to be growing pains, but right now it seems better when DeRozan's isolating and Vucevic is isolating and Levine's isolating. Like when those guys isolate, the Bulls actually get better offense than if the Bulls were running this, heavy pass offense. And like, here's the thing. The thing is about this Bulls offense, they're passing the ball a ton. Like they're second in the NBA coming into this game, or maybe it's the Pelicans game, whichever game it was, in passes per game. Like that's great. That's what you want to see. But right now, it's killing the Bulls' offense. They're 22nd in offensive rating. They suck right now. And if you actually look at passes per possession, the Bulls are second in the league in passes per possession. So they're passing the ball a lot. But it's not resulting in offensive points. So that's the reason why I'm starting to think like maybe the Bulls just need to go back to isolating. Maybe you need to isolate DeRozan. You need to isolate Levine because these two guys are like two of the top like isolated scorers in the NBA right now, and posting up Vooch is like an isolation. So go back to doing that because it's the only way this Bulls team actually looks okay on offense. Because instead we're seeing guys that they're being put in weird positions like the Carusos, the Javonte Greens, the Patrick Williams, the Derrick Jones Jr.'s, where they're catching the ball and in this new system, they have to make decisions whether to not just shoot the ball or pass it, but they have to drive, try to manipulate the defense, and they have to make multiple decisions that shouldn't be on them, which those decisions should be on the All-Stars. But instead, it's quite the opposite, and it's been such a problem for this team on offense. And their poor offense has led to poor transition defense because if you don't make shots, the other team's going to score. What's up, Patrick? Hope you're doing well. Bulls really need to get their act together. Yeah, they really do. And I think it's from top to bottom the organization. I think Billy Donovan needs to get his act together because clearly there's something wrong with him, and I don't know what it is. I think obviously the All-Stars need to do better. Levine had the worst game ever I've ever seen from him, so he can't have that again, obviously. But he needs to play better than that. And even the bench guys, like they have to play better because this bench team has just been so inconsistent all of a sudden when we were usually relying on them to be one of our main points, our main offense. Honestly, someone informed me the team was coming back, and I was like, okay, because when I was watching them from first through third quarter, we were getting blown out. Yeah, then Vooch missed the free throws. Yeah, lack basketball IQ at times and inconsistent on both sides of the floor, which is terrible. Yeah. I actually think that this team's like IQ is overall pretty high, but you're seeing like right now that there's just this bad mix of that the veterans, they're thinking one way and then the young guys are thinking another way, right? So for example, like Patrick Williams, he's he catches the ball in the corner, like this is down the stretch, right? He catches the ball in the corner after Vooch posts up and draws a double. He's wide open in the corner but doesn't decide to shoot it, and he turns the ball over on a travel. Like that, you're seeing where things are problematic, right? Because that's a rookie type mistake or like a young player mistake. And you have Vucevic, who's a veteran, who made the right pass and everything, but then doesn't get any sort of reward out of it after making the right basketball play. So you're seeing that. I mean, even with Io, who I've been such a fan of, he's actually, and if it was actually just like you just saw with Io, he was getting back cut this game a lot. And Io was good to start, but then we saw in the second half, like he came out early because he was getting back cut by Jalen Suggs multiple times. So he gets taken out. So it's like these little rookie mistakes are being paired up with the veterans, and it doesn't fit. You can't make those types of mistakes as well, and it's just insane. Salty solution: if it were up to me, I would blow up the team after this game and just tank Victor. We got a pretty good start. Salty, I actually made a video on this. The Bulls should never be tanking this season because they don't have full control of their draft pick. They could have the worst record in the league, but then still only have a 14% chance of getting the first overall pick, and still most likely fall out of the top 4. So, in my opinion, there is no way you should ever be thinking tank this season. Here's the thing. I agree with you that I don't like how how the team plays. Like, I think that this team needs a lot of major changes. But if we're going to make that full rebuild change or full tank change, it's going to be during the offseason. because this season you can't trust on a top 4 protected pick. There's no reason to do such a thing. It is a horrible decision to make. So I understand a lot of Bulls fans are saying tank now, but it just doesn't make any sense when you don't have full control of your pick. So I understand that I understand Bulls fans are like this right now because the sky's falling. And it's like, look, man, this is the team right now. This is just straight up the team now. You're gonna have to, if you hate this team, then don't watch this team this year. And I would be okay if you're like that. But a rebuild is not gonna happen until this upcoming offseason because the Bulls don't have full control of their pick. So yeah, the last thing we want to do is tank, go, whatever, 15 and 67, and you don't get a top 4 pick somehow because the lottery odds were against you. So yeah, the Bulls are just not going to tank this season. I am in agreement with everybody that this team needs a change. Like, I agree, Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic, they don't work together. I completely agree with that. But you're not going to see these major changes, or at least the changes to make this team start losing intentionally until the offseason. And even then, I don't see this team doing such a thing. In my last video, if you guys haven't checked out, in my opinion, the Bulls should never be tanking. I think that this Bulls team should just be drafting well, no matter where they pick. But also the Bulls should never be tanking because they're one of the top markets in the league. You should be a winning team and still be in on all the good free agents, especially in the 2024 free agent class. You should be in on all the good free agents. You should be able to get these guys to come here. And that's the reason why you should never be tanking. Like, I showed in the video I just made, that even if, let's say, the Bulls keep Levine, you keep Ayo Dosunmu, you keep Alex Caruso, Dale and Terry, that the Bulls will have about $75 million in cap space for the 2024 offseason. And you have all this money to go spend on guys like Jaylen Brown, who has to go through free agency. DeJounte Murray, he has to go through free agency. Pascal Siakam is going to be a free agent. Fred VanVleet, Domantas Sabonis. Like, there's all these guys that are free agents that should 100% be interested in the Bulls. And the only way for those guys to be interested in coming to Chicago is if this Bulls team is winning. Not saying it has to be great winning, right? But it has to be good winning. You have to be making the playoffs. I know this team doesn't look like they're heading to the playoffs, but I'm actually going to disagree. I think this Bulls team is still going to get into the playoffs somehow. I know it looks awful right now, but this team is too talented to the point where they're not going to be in the play-in tournament somehow. So, yeah, this team's making the playoffs, in my opinion. Exactly, every time we lose, let's tank, let's trade everybody. And I get it. I mean, I understand why Bulls fans are upset because, I mean, you went through 5 years of rebuilding, got nowhere, and now you finally had your first winning season. Now the Bulls are losing again. So I understand the frustration where people are saying, "Hey, let's trade everybody." But this idea of tanking is just one of the worst ideas, in my opinion, for this season. If you want to tank next season, fine by me. Go ahead. But this season, the Bulls are not tanking because they don't have full control of their pick. You don't tank unless you have full control of your pick. Like, everyone's saying the Lakers should tank, and I'm like, the Lakers pick goes to the Pelicans. Why in the heck would the Lakers tank? There's no reason to tank. If you don't have full control of your pick, you do not tank. So it's just, I think, pretty dumb when I see Bulls fans say this stuff. I think we can make the playoffs too, but us being this bad with the All-Star caliber players is just weird. I totally agree. It's definitely weird, but I think you're seeing what the problem is right now for this Bulls team, right? You're seeing that this team is right now. They don't have good 3-point shooting. They lack length. They lack rebounding. And there's obviously no interior defense unless your name is Andre Drummond. So it just, I think it just shows everybody, like, hey, there's issues with this Bulls roster, and everyone's gonna start blame AK and everything, but like, in my opinion, it's always the way you do things is you have to get talent first, and then you figure out what to do, right? So for AK and Mark Eversley, they were looking at, like, okay, Vucevic is available, DeMar DeRozan's available, Lonzo Ball's available. We're gonna get those guys here, and they did that, that should be applauded. But the next step is, okay, now that we got the talent, who stays, who goes, how do we fit this team around the best players? And right now, I think you're 100% seeing that the big three can't play together. So it's going to come down to a decision with, who stays, who goes. A lot of people have been saying like they have to choose between Levine and DeRozan, which I mean that's up to everyone to decide who they want to choose. I honestly do not care. I'm a huge Levine fan, but I don't care if the Bulls decide to choose Levine or decide to choose DeRozan over Levine. But at the end of the day, you got to choose one. I personally actually think that you're probably going to see Vucevic probably be the first one to go, if they're going to get rid of two. But I think what I want to see first is you get rid of Vooch first, and then see if Levine and DeRozan can fit around a team that is surrounded by good three-point shooting and good interior defense. So it's just that's just my opinion, but we'll see what happens. I agree with you though; it would be a huge risk considering even we did suck the NBA gave us fourth pick multiple years in a row, so I don't doubt they'll do it again. Yeah, I mean I'm telling you, Salty Solution, like. There is just no reason to tank. I understand everybody's thinking, hey, we have a top 4 protected pick. We can still get Wembanyama. We're not tanking this year because we've seen it so many times that teams that have like the best odds, they fall back. It's how it's going to go. So there is no reason to tank unless you have a full control of your draft pick. And let's say you have the best odds but still fall back to 5. At least you're still getting a top 5 pick. The Bulls don't have that right now. So there's no reason to tank this season. I won't be shocked if there's moves this season. Like, I won't be shocked because if Vucevic is about to be, hitting free agency, that they actually trade Vooch to get stuff in return for him. But that still doesn't mean tank. That just means, hey, let's change the team up, or let's at least get something back for Vooch before he hits free agency, and he's probably gonna be gone, honestly. Vooch isn't even a center. That boy thinks he's a point guard. I think right now in this offense, he's being acted like he's being the point center on this team, and I just don't think that's the right move. Like, Billy's been hell-bent on running a 5-out offense that uses Vucevic as a passer, and it's like, that dude needs to be in the post. And we saw the Bulls team actually have some success in the second quarter by just posting up Vucevic consistently. And they went away from that in the second half. And I know everyone's going to point out to that, Levine took a step back 3 when Vooch had a Jalen Suggs on him. That's not technically on Levine, because that's actually on Patrick Williams, because he stayed there in the corner when Patrick needed to get out of there, because if Levine threw that pass, it's a turnover because it's bull right there. So it's just, you can just see that everything is just so messed up on this Bulls team. No one knows where to go. You got guys that are only one-dimensional on this team, and Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. And you got guys like Caruso who are only defensive, but he can't make any shots. So it's just they don't have the right combination currently, and they need to figure it out. They need to figure out who's going to be the best two-way players on this team. I would rather just have a rim protector than that can replace the starting center. Barely does Vooch get post-up plays. At times he struggles down his opponents. Yeah, and here's the thing. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Magugula. I appreciate you chatting a lot. This is awesome. But I actually think that Drummond signing was kind of like a hint at, maybe the Bulls move on from Vooch. Because Drummond, at the end of the day, is more athletic. He's, he doesn't shoot threes. He's a hard screener, hard rim roller. I mean, he's not the best rim protector, right? But he's a paint guy, right? And I think the biggest thing with this Bulls team is that they're trying to get out and run in transition. But we're actually seeing that because they're trying to do that, Vooch doesn't come, Vooch doesn't run out in transition. He doesn't run hard to the rim. He's the trailer for the three-point shot. Well, that's just not going to work on a team that's supposed to be leading in fast break points when they're in the middle of the pack this season. So that Drummond signing, I mean, that's what Drummond does. He's an athletic center that can move very well with his feet, that runs the floor hard, that can take advantage in the paint, and he's a good pick and roll guy. So it might be like a hint, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I wouldn't be shocked if that's what the Bulls decide to do, is move on from Vooch and have Drummond start. Either maybe it's during this season, or maybe it's next season. Who knows at this point? But clearly, obviously, there needs to be changes. I'm saying the name right? Okay, good. I'm glad I'm saying that right. But, yeah, I mean, this Bulls team, there's going to have to be there's going to have to be changes. I'm fixing my camera. I hate how it looks, so give me a second here. But, yeah, there's going to be some major changes for this Bulls team. I don't know what exactly it's going to be. But I think the other thing that I think people don't understand is like AK kind of set the bar. Like this Bulls team is not winning the championship. He doesn't even believe that. He just wants his Bulls team to do better than last season. But clearly, it looks like they're actually going to do worse than last season, at least for now. I still have this Bulls team winning 47 games. I said at the start of this season, I still stand by it. But if this continues, then there's obviously going to be changes. And I just think people need to understand, like, AK and Mark Eversley, like, this was an evaluation year again. Like, I know we just keep talking about, like, oh, evaluation, to, like, when are we actually going to do something? But I think that they were like, okay, we got the talent. Now what do we do? Who stays, who goes? So we're going to evaluate these guys, see if they can actually play together. If they can, then what's the next step to get them to, the next level? If they can't, then who do we get rid of? So I just think that that's where we're at this point. And I think right now the biggest thing is that the big three can't play together. And I've been kind of worried about that. Back to what you're saying about LaVine and DeMar. If I had to choose between DeMar and LaVine, I'd rather keep DeMar because he at least trained with Patrick and Io during the offseason. He's more of a leader of the team than LaVine. That's fine, yeah. I just think with DeMar, like, my biggest concern with him is obviously his age and, like, how long can he keep this up? I do think his game's going to age gracefully, but that doesn't mean that he's going to continue being, like, scoring 25 points per game. That just means that he's not going to fall off a cliff. So that's just my biggest issue. And honestly, I mean, LaVine probably has the most trade value out of the three. I know he just signed a max contract, but I mean, I'm telling you guys right now, that $40 million, it's not even $40 million, it's $38 million that he just got, that means nothing for a bunch of other teams. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll take LaVine if he's on this contract. If anything, they're happy he's not making a super max. So, yeah, maybe. Right, I think the commentator was pointing out how Nikola was running super hard to the paint during a fast break in a second. The paint was like wide open too, plus he's not a transition player. Yeah, and on that one play, let's say his game was brought up, like, that's on DeMar. Like, DeMar just straight up did not find Vucevic on that play. So it's so interesting just to see that that DeMar just didn't give it to him. So that one's on DeMar, but it's also just, it shows you, like, this Bulls chemistry, like, at least on the offensive end, it's just not there. Like, when Vucevic runs hard to the basket, DeMar's also going to the basket. Like, spacing's not good. Like, there needs to be something different, right? You can't have that. Zach LaVine's step back shots don't work like he used to during 3 to 2 years ago. And I'm surprised he didn't drive to the basket compared to Io. I think he actually drove to the basket, but then he just missed it. And then other times he's getting blocked by Bull and Mo Bamba back there. So I still don't think Zach's 100%, but, maybe, I don't know. His step back shots, yeah, maybe they're not creating as much separation from 3 to 2 years ago, but I still think it's creating enough separation that he's getting a clean look off. He just has to hit the shot. I just don't know why in this game he didn't hit it. But, I mean, this season, though, Zach's been killing it from the perimeter. I mean, the dude was shooting 39% from 3, but obviously this game it just didn't show up. So, who knows? Again, like, I'm like a big LaVine guy, and I'm like, this whole max contract, situation where everyone's saying, wow, look at that max player, definitely a max. Like, he deserves the max because that's what the market is, right? Like, the market sets the value for the player. So Zach deserves a max. Like, that's just exactly that's what Zach deserves because the dude's a 2-time All-Star. Like, a two-time All-Star in a row is just, he's gonna get a max no matter who the heck the player is. So he deserves a max. It's what I just don't like hearing is, hey, the Bulls, they pay this dude a max contract, they're gonna end up hating it. I'm like, no, this dude, he's gonna be just fine because he can shoot. Maybe he isn't as like, his athleticism's going and his explosiveness is kind of going, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I just think he's still not just 100%. But if that is the case, he's still going to average 24 points per game because he can shoot the ball. That's how it goes in the NBA. Like, the fact that he can still shoot the ball is still so effective. Not to mention, I still think Zach's footwork, like, doesn't get talked about enough. Like, he has great footwork, and that's how he creates separation still, and still is able to get to the rim. Right now, what he needs to add is a little floater, because if he can't explode to the cup like he used to, then he needs to add the floater to his game so he can still shoot over the big men if he can't get to the cup as hard. I don't think Zach's 100%, and at times he should cut more to the basket if there's a chance. So I agree with you, Magugla, but here's the thing. This Bulls offense needs Zach to be a shooter because there is no shooting on the court. He can't cut because if he cuts, he's just getting clogged up in the lane and everyone collapses onto him. So there's no point in him being a cutter if there's no spacing or there's no shooting on the floor, I should say. Can't say spacing because the Bulls' lack of spacing, it's on the players because the players need to move more to create more space. But, I agree that Zach should be cutting more because that's one of his parts of his game that is so valuable. But when you have Patrick Williams standing out there who doesn't shoot very well, and Ayo Dosunmu, who was also not a very consistent three-point shooter right now, and also DeMar DeRozan, who isn't a shooter, there's no space for him to actually cut, right? So that's the issue right now with this Bulls team is that there's too many pieces right now that are trying to gel together, but they don't fit, right? To get the most or maximize Zach, he needs the shooters around him, right? So he has the flexibility to either go to the 3-point line or cut hard to the rim. But instead, he has to be the shooter because he's the best shooter on the team currently. Ayo is a guy that needs a bunch of spacing, but then he's being paired up next to DeMar DeRozan and Patrick Williams, who don't shoot the ball very well from 3-point range. And then he has a center that looks to only shoot the ball when Ayo is very clearly a pick-and-roll guy that wants a guy rolling hard to the rim. So it's just all these guys, they're not gelling together. And that's fine. It's just now the front office has to make the right moves. Because like I said, the first part of anything is getting talent. You have to get the talent. And the Bulls got the talent. They went out and got DeRozan. They got Lonzo. They got Vooch when they were available. But now it's take the next step in who stays, who goes. And if they have to hit the full-out rebuild button, fine. I'm all for it, honestly. But I personally just would not go that way. I wouldn't go that route, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just a lot of problems right now. And this new offense just doesn't help because this new offensive system, it's forcing guys that are role players to make more decisions when they should be making simple decisions like shoot the open shot or pass it to the wide open guy. When you're forcing role players to have to manipulate the defense or to be part of the pick and roll and decide what to do when they get the ball, those sort of decisions can't be part of this offense. He still has issues, right? He can't be relied on to be the guy that is catching the ball and either deciding to go hard to the rim, pull up for a jumper, manipulate to try to draw two defenders and pass it out to the next guy. He shouldn't be that guy. He just should be shoot the ball or pass it or cut hard to the rim. That's all it should be. But they're not allowed to do that in this sort of offense. It's just so odd. So, yeah. A lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff we can vent about after this loss. So I don't know what it is. Is it 5 losses in a row now for the Bulls? It continues to look worse. And honestly, in my opinion, unless something changes here, I thought maybe Dragic would start tonight. He didn't. So the Bulls play Boston, which, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in that game. I'm going to guess the Bulls get wrecked. But, I mean, we're not winning against Boston. We're not winning against Milwaukee. So OKC, Utah, and Utah's playing great. These are the two teams you got to at least get back on track, or at least, I mean, against this Boston and Milwaukee teams, you got to at least show up. And the Bulls didn't show up for 3/4 of this Magic game. That's the other thing. It's just these guys aren't coming ready to play. I don't know who that's on. It seems like it's on a lot of the big three, but I mean, how much can you really start blaming the big three when it's sometimes they'll actually show up and then nothing else works. So, I mean, I've been a Donovan defender for a long time, but he hasn't looked good during this. He doesn't look good at all. Not playing Javonte Green in the first half, but then you see the impact that he had in the second half. That's on Donovan. Why isn't Javonte playing in the first half? Why is he getting less minutes? That doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, it's just a lot of issues right now. And then there's one other thing that I want to bring up here. The Bulls right now, I understand that they don't have 3-point shooting, but even when you don't have 3-point shooting, right? You as a team need to still be scoring in the paint. Okay? Right now, coming into this game, the Bulls were in the bottom 5 in points in the paint. I understand you don't have 3-point shooting, but you can still create spacing without 3-point shooting. It requires player movement, which the Bulls don't have right now. But you have a all-star type center in Nikola Vucevic, who is a post-up machine, not getting post-up touches at all. Like, we saw it a lot in this game, but it was only in the second quarter, honestly. Billy Donovan has to get more post-up touches for Vooch. And anytime they've actually ran post-up plays for Vooch, it's bad. It's poorly designed plays. It's been, he gets the ball with like 7 seconds to go on the shot clock, or he posts up and it's not good post position. Like, there needs to be better plays for Vucevic to get the ball quicker in the post and in better post position. That's on Donovan. That's not anybody else. That's on Donovan. But it's also on Vooch to start thinking score first instead of pass first, because there have been too many times where Vucevic actually does post up, but then he passes the ball when he should be looking to score. So that's inexcusable by Vooch. But still, though, the first part of it is on Donovan, that Vucevic is not getting enough post-up touches. And that's on Donovan. He needs to run that. But Donovan's also there's just some decisions that I'm scratching my head. As Bulls fans, we can't really complain too hard because we had Boylen, right? Boylen didn't know how to coach. Like, the dude just straight up did not know how to coach, and he will make some of the most fundamental errors I've ever seen, like taking out rebounders when there's a bad free throw shooter at the line late game. Like, that is just a fundamental coaching error. But with Donovan, it's like the next step where this Bulls team is actually trying to win now. Like, there's little bits and pieces in a game that actually matter, and he has control over some of these decisions. And one of those decisions is getting more paint points. The Bulls have to get more paint points, and Donovan has control over this. I understand the Bulls don't have 3-point shooting, but this is something that they have, which is paint production, and they're not getting it right now. And I think that's something that Donovan needs to work on. When we signed Donovan, I was happy because we were rebuilding the team, but now that we're trying to compete, he shouldn't be the coach anymore. Yeah, and who knows, man? We'll see what happens this offseason. Just saying, Donovan's going to be here for the rest of the season. Again, the Bulls are trying to win. They're not looking to tank. So if the Bulls all of a sudden decide to tank, then Donovan would he would be gone. But they're not looking to tank this season. So he's here for the rest of this season. But he has another year of his contract next season, and that's when it's going to be interesting because maybe AK decides to move on from him. I wouldn't be shocked if they do. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really time to start calling him out because it's multiple things now where it's like I'm looking at this team and I'm just like, there could be better decisions made for this team that's trying to win. Yeah, it's just straight up. It kind of sucks. Like there were definitely some other coaches that I think deserve an opportunity. One of them is Adrian Griffin, who was a former Bulls assistant coach. He's been in Toronto, I think, recently, and the dude has been an assistant coach for so long. He deserves a chance, but he hasn't gotten an opportunity. There is Wes Unseld Jr., who's now Washington Wizards head coach. I thought the Bulls could have looked at him. They decided not to get him. So yeah, at the end of the day, like, Donovan is still a good coach. It's just I don't know if he's really ready to take a team that is supposed to be winning and making the right adjustments to get them to, consistently playing at a high level. So yeah, I as much as I defended Donovan over the years, like there's been some errors on his part that he needs to do better at. So yeah, Salty Solution, you brought up Udoka. Yeah, I also was looking at Ime. Obviously that obviously doesn't look very good for Ime Udoka right now. But yeah, it's definitely a thought that I had before he got signed to the Celtics. But I mean, AK wanted Donovan, so I'm gonna let that go because he just came in. He should have put Io in the start of the fourth. Yeah, I agree with that. But I also like I thought Io should have came in earlier in the third quarter. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I thought Io did not play for the last 8:32 of the third quarter. Like I don't know why we did that, but I thought Io should have came in earlier in the third quarter. Mark Jackson, I personally would not like a coach that has not been in a coaching position for a while, and we're getting to the point now with Mark Jackson that like he hasn't been coaching in a while. So I would want like an assistant coach over Mark Jackson. I do think Mark Jackson deserves another opportunity, but it's probably gonna be for like a rebuilding team, unfortunately for him. But yeah, I just personally would like a coach that is still coaching or has been in the coaching line for a while. His career would have been different if we chose him. I wouldn't say that's a guaranteed salty solution for Ime. I wouldn't say that. I think there's actually more to this whole Ime Udoka situation that we have no clue about that isn't being released. So I'm not gonna say it's a guarantee that his career will look different if he's on the Bulls instead of the Celtics. Bad people tend to hurt bad people. Bad people tend to continue to be bad no matter who they are around any sort of people. Like, he'll come to the Bulls and still have issues. Like, that, I personally just can't see that working out any differently. Because I think it's not just one person that he was involved with. I think it's many people, unfortunately. That it's not being released, though. Yeah, I don't know. I personally, I'm not a big fan of it. That's just my opinion on it all. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Donovan. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to go on, guys. I do think that there's some guys that deserve some opportunities. I'm glad, for example, Mike Brown, who's now coaching the Kings. Like the Kings are playing great, and I thought Mike Brown 100% deserved another opportunity. And he got his opportunity. He's playing well, or he's doing well. So, yeah, there's a bunch of guys out there that I feel like they really deserve another opportunity. And what I don't want to see is, this whole Steve Nash situation, for example. Like, that Steve Nash situation, I was very upset with how he got hired. And it very clearly showed that he was not a good coach. Like, the dude had no coaching experience. I understand he had a great playing career, but the dude won some MVPs he probably didn't deserve. But why does he all of a sudden get a coaching job? Like, the dude's been a consultant for the Warriors. He's not coaching, and he just gets a coaching job. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Chris Finch in Minnesota. Like, Chris Finch, I think, is a horrible coach. But yet, the dude got hired in the middle of the season just randomly after they got rid of Ryan Saunders. Like, that's just straight up inexcusable by some of these NBA teams. So, like, I just hope AK doesn't do that sort of thing for whoever comes in next, which honestly might be next season. I wouldn't be shocked if it was. But as much as I'm bashing Donovan, like, the thing that I do appreciate with Donovan is that he sticks up for his players. Like, he's not going to go out there and start blaming guys. So he'll say, like, I need more from you to the media, but he's not going to go to the media and say, this person is not playing well tonight, or this person is the reason why we lost, right? He takes the blame himself and actually says, hey, I'm sticking up for my guys, which that's a big part of coaching, which that's the reason why he's a better coach than a lot of coaches. But, he's not an Eric Spoelstra. He's not a Greg Popovich. He's not a Steve Kerr. Like, we're talking about some of the best coaches in the league that he's not there yet. And I know that he had some opportunities in OKC, and unfortunately those opportunities didn't go far for him with KD and Russell Westbrook. So it's just interesting to see kind of how his career goes. Yeah, so who knows? Definitely something that we're going to be really looking into as the season kind of chugs along here. Because I'm starting to get to the point now where I think that he's lost the locker room a bit, in my opinion. It's interesting that Eric never won a Coach of the Year award. Yeah, I think that's an absolute disgrace. I think he should have 100% won a Coach of the Year award. But, yeah, it is how it goes. Just like Pippen or Duncan's never winning a Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. I mean, think about this. Magugla. Shaq won 1 MVP. Kobe Bryant 1 MVP. Dirk Nowitzki 1 MVP. Steve Nash 2 MVPs. There's something wrong with that, isn't there? Like, there's just straight up something wrong with that whole saying, right? It doesn't make any sense, but here we are, and there are players that 100% should have won more than they haven't. Eric Spoelstra, I think, is a phenomenal coach, and the dude just doesn't ever get credit. Like, because he initially it was always, oh, he had LeBron, he had D Wade, and Chris Bosh. Like, okay, but it's still, as we've seen, talent doesn't mean you win with the Brooklyn Nets, right? You can have all the talent in the world, but you're not going to win if you don't have good coaching. So Eric Spoelstra deserves a lot of credit, and he doesn't get it. Yeah, Duncan never won it. He never did. He made all defensive teams all the time. Like, every single year. It was like all defensive first team, all defensive second team. Never won defensive player of the year. It's crazy, right? I mean, we're talking about the dude in the Spurs system that was a franchise cornerstone on both ends of the floor. But yet, never won it. Oh, God. And here comes a stupid ads that seem to pop up now. That's happening to the Wolves. They have the talent, but chemistry and coaching doesn't work for them. Yeah, they 100%. But I personally hated that Rudy Gobert trade. I was like, oh my goodness, that Rudy Gobert trade is, I think that was a horrible decision, honestly, by the Wolves front office. So yeah, I don't know, but definitely coaching is part of their issue currently. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a play for the Wolves where they're on defense and they're basically playing 5-on-4 because D'Angelo Russell was supposed to check in on the last dead ball, but he didn't check in. So the Wolves were playing 5-on-4 and they didn't recognize it until like 5 seconds late, or if there's 5 seconds left in the shot clock. And I'm like, bro, like, yeah, that's maybe part of it on D'Angelo Russell, but that's also on the coach. Like, that just shows that the players aren't engaged. That was like the worst of the worst for the Timberwolves, and they have so much talent on that roster. It's not working, and I think Chris Finch is why. Like, the dude doesn't know how to coach a team. I mean, we saw in last year's playoffs that the Wolves had a double-digit lead on the Memphis Grizzlies in multiple games, and they blew them all because they don't know how to play. So it's just interesting. I really think that coaching is a huge part of teams putting it together. Giving away that many draft picks for Rudy is crazy. Yeah, I personally think it's nuts. And I think the Wolves are going to absolutely be hating themselves come in 3 years. I really do. The Jazz and Cavs trade was probably a rare trade that both parties won. Yeah, I guess. But I think it's also interesting because like Danny Ainge continues to do this thing where it's like they're supposed to tank and then they don't. So I don't know if the Jazz exactly won. But yeah, I mean, that Cavs trade made 100% sense to me. The Jazz on their end, it's a little, We'll see how it works. I know that Markkanen is having a great start to the season, but I keep saying to everybody, like, just wait, because I just don't see this continuing, unfortunately for him. And I don't think the Jazz are going to continue this well, because you're going to see a point where Mike Conley gets injured, or like Jordan Clarkson goes on like a cold streak or something. Like, there's something that's going to go wrong for the Utah Jazz, and then it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to fall apart. But we'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But in my opinion, that's not going to stay. They're not going to be that good for the entire season. But prove me wrong, Jazz. I honestly, I'm hoping you guys, the Jazz, prove me wrong. But yeah, that'll be interesting to watch this season. Kind of like a weird time in the NBA because there's like a lot of movement in the standings. We got teams that are overachieving, teams that are underachieving, like the Bulls. Like, it's a weird time in the NBA. All right. So, getting back to this, for this horrific Bulls team currently that continues to always just be a disaster. Yeah. I think we need to put Javonte Green in the starting lineup. I just think it's time to make a change to the starting lineup. The slow start, like, I know in this game was like slow start, but like trading baskets doesn't work. Like, this Bulls team needs to get off to better starts. I think with Patrick Williams, like he had a horrible start to the season. Then he played very well for a good 2 week stretch, and now it's kind of back down to like he's not playing that great. So I think to get this team off to better starts, get the energy going, I put Javonte in the starting lineup. I think that's going to help this Bulls team a lot. He's going to bring a lot more effort on the defensive end, and he's going to make those energy type plays to get this team going. And get this team playing faster at the beginning of the game. So that's what I would do personally. We'll see if Donovan does anything, but I think that there needs to be a change to the starting lineup. And I was gonna say Io should be taken out, but I mean in this game he actually played well. So now I'm like I wouldn't take out Io personally. I think Io needs to actually start to keep Dragic to make sure that Dragic doesn't play too much. So I think the change is taking Patrick Williams out, start Javonte. Because this whole team just needs to change, just straight up. And then I think Patrick would look a lot better in the second unit, honestly. But that's just my opinion. I just think it's time just to do it. What happened during the first half of the game? The first quarter, the first 8-ish minutes, the Bulls just kind of traded buckets. Then the second unit came in. Then the Magic got out to that 13-point lead. Bulls just traded buckets through the second quarter, so they were down by 14 going into the halftime. And then we saw the second half, they were down by 19, then came back, and then they lost it. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't think the Jazz are going to be a playoff team. It was basically like the Nets during the 2020-2021 season where they started well with the Harden arrival, and then they fell off. Yeah, I could see that. I just think this Jazz team, like, it's going to be so interesting to see what they do because they're winning a lot right now, but it seemed like the reason why they did all this was to go for Wembanyama or to go for Scoot Henderson or whoever, right? They wanted to get, like a new cornerstone for their team. And now they have Markkanen leading the charge, but the dude's averaging 21, and it's been more of like a team effort instead of like a, one sole guy. And I mean, as much as I'm like rooting for Markkanen's success, like I just don't think he's a cornerstone. I just personally don't see that. So if you're the Jazz, it's like, do you really just keep rolling with this, or do you, maybe start looking to potentially start losing some games to pick up that guy who you think is going to be the guy for your future? But maybe they decide to go the other route and just be like, no, let's just win as many games as possible. Let's draft well, and maybe one of the guys that we draft turns into something great. Because they have a bunch of draft picks as well. So they have multiple chances to kind of hit on that guy, even if it's not a top, 4 pick. So, yeah, it's definitely an option for them. So I'll just be interested to see what Danny Ainge decides to do. Because Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson, like, those guys, I could see 100% being traded very, very soon. But, yeah. All right, back to the Bulls. Sorry, I'm always watching the rest of the NBA. But, yeah, I just think we need to start Javonte. This is, again, I don't know why Donovan didn't play Javonte in the first half. And Javonte Green's minutes have been going down recently, and I hate that. But I would take out P. Will, start Javonte. That doesn't mean that Patrick Williams plays less than Javonte. That just means Javonte starts. And it's just means that Javonte maybe only plays his first 8 minutes of each half. But at least that, I think, helps get this Bulls team off to better starts. I think that's just something that is a good idea to help this Bulls team get more energy and play faster in the starting lineup, and then the rest of the lineups can figure themselves out. But that would be my move to help this start, and then we'll see what else happens. I still think Levine in that second unit is the best move. So I wouldn't really necessarily change that, but to me, it's start Javonte, get Vooch more post-up touches, and potentially think about, we might have to go back to isolation, like straight up, because this new offensive system doesn't work right now. And I mean, when you shoot 5 of 21 from 3-point range, you're playing a 5-out offense that basically means nothing because you don't have shooters on your roster. So I think it might be time to start thinking, we might have to go back to not full-time, but, some of the time the DeRozan isolation, the Vucevic post up, the Levine isolation. Like, use these guys. Like, DeRozan can isolate in the high post. That's more effective, in my opinion, than the Bulls just kind of swinging around on the perimeter. Because at least with DeRozan in the post, it's a form of ball penetration. It gets the ball closer to the paint. So I just think that's something that needs to actually be considered. And then, this team will hopefully look a lot better just through that. They'll have to play a little bit slower, but, I mean, they're not playing fast in general already. So that's just my opinion. The Western and Eastern Conference literally switching how good competition-wise. I personally disagree with that. I actually think the Western Conference is still the better conference. If you're talking about, like, how many close teams there are, you definitely have an argument. But in my opinion, man, I think this Western Conference is still pretty stacked. Like, I mean, this Warriors team obviously being this down low is not going to continue. But, I mean, I see 12 teams that should be fighting for the top 10, in my opinion. And then in the East, like, I don't see the Pacers and Knicks staying up here, or the Wizards. So I think in the East it's kind of more of like the top 9, but that's just my opinion. But if you're going to talk about like how close things are, maybe you can argue the East, but in my opinion, it's still the West. It's just, I think, the biggest dogfight because, I mean, we got teams like the Grizzlies and the Pelicans who I feel like have actually played well, and they're 5-6. So just because Portland and Phoenix and Denver, they're just playing better to start the season. But yeah, to me, this Bulls team, now that they're all the way, in 12th, like, they're 3 games behind 4th. So it's not panic time, in my opinion, but it's definitely like time to say, hey, let's get it going here. Because I said, like, this Bulls team, in my opinion, until December had to just kind of tread water, just stay around 500, and right now they're below 500. So they need to get back to 500, and then I think they're going to look a lot better. But below 500 is inexcusable. They can't afford to do this because sooner or later it's just going to be too late for them to even get a good chance of making a play-in. So yeah, they need to get back to 500 quickly. And it probably doesn't come in their next 2 games. It's going to be mostly in December, it looks like, is when they'll get back to 500 and then hopefully get over 500 again. So yeah. All right. I'm just going to end it here because I don't have any film to break down, honestly. This is just an effort type thing for this team. But for those that are remaining in chat here, I've been thinking about making a gaming channel. My friends and I, I wouldn't call ourselves like the best gamers or like big gamers. We don't play a lot of gaming, but I'm a pretty big Valorant nerd when it comes to the gaming scene. I'm constantly watching Valorant. I'm not the best player. I suck. I'm a bronze player. But would any of you guys be interested in like gaming stuff from me? Whether it's streaming gaming or making videos or stuff like that. Just let me know. I know a lot of people also watch the stream like after the stream's over. So, if you're doing that, you can just comment. But I think it's something I'm actually going to consider doing. So I might start that up here soon. Not this month, but it would be maybe next year would be kind of an option. So if you are interested in that, if you like Valorant, or if you're I know people like League of Legends. I'm not a big League player, but Overwatch is also kind of huge right now. So if you're interested in that from me, go ahead and tell me, because I think it'll be kind of a fun thing to do. This is obviously priority number 1, but then that would just be on the side, and probably not as consistent, but just be kind of a fun thing. So let me know what you guys think about that. Bulls lose again, 107-108. Lost 6 of the last 7. Doesn't look good. And we got the Boston Celtics next. It doesn't get any easier. Then we got the Milwaukee Bucks after that. So this Bulls team, there's a lot of problems. There's probably some coaching issues. There's some player personnel issues. So this team isn't perfect, and we knew that coming into the season. But they have to start maximizing what they're best at. And if they can't do that, then this is going to be a long, long season. So we'll see what happens next time. But that's gonna do it for me, y'all. Hoping for a Bulls win next time if you guys see me. I'll see y'all in the next one. See ya.